Greg, legal bids filed now with a number of the different states. I believe last time I had a look, it was 7 legal bids since the election day, all rejected thus far by the state courts. When does the incumbent finally give up and concede?
Well, Kieran, I imagine quite soon. I don't think we should get our knickers too much in a twist about this. There was an enormous delay when George W. Bush beat Al Gore in 2000, and he wasn't allowed to begin his transition work. The Biden campaign is dripping with money, so they got plenty of money to hire a few folks to tell them what they plan to do when they get into office. I don't think Trump is altogether serious about this, although it's always hard to pick Trump. But if Trump was serious about waging a campaign to overturn these results, he'd be having rallies in Georgia and Michigan and Pennsylvania and so on. I think it's all right to let the legal process trickle out. It is the case that there's only one president at a time anyway. So briefing Biden on intelligence and so on is a courtesy. What a shock. Donald Trump is not observing the courtesies. I am more concerned, that he's sacking folks from his own administration and so on, because that is a bit chaotic. I don't think the other stuff amounts to much. And look, all these courts are rejecting Trump's claims. So the left-wing conspiracy theories that these Republican-appointed judges are going to steal the election for Trump, well, there's no sign of that so far. A lot of these courts are in states where the judges have been appointed by Republicans, and so far they're rejecting all of Trump's legal suits.
Yep, indeed, all of them rejected thus far. On that, Mark Esper, Defence Secretary, sacked. The incoming Defence Secretary will be there, possibly one of the shortest serving in recent memory, certainly, that I could think of. What's going on there? Why that move? Why now?
Well, Kieran, it's a bit of a mystery, but I hope that it's just pure vindictiveness. I hope it's just this ugly, nasty vindictiveness which Trump shows, and nothing more coherent than that. Mark Esper was himself a bit of a lightweight in defence. Trump had a heavyweight in James Mattis, and then he had a couple of acting secretaries after Mattis. Trump likes acting secretaries because he can sack them easily, doesn't have to get them confirmed through Congress, and he thinks they're a bit more pliable. Esper, however, showed admirable backbone at the height of the summer riots when he said there is no case for the use of the Insurrection Act to insert troops into American cities against the wishes of the city mayors or the state governors. He was right to say that. I think that was a good judgment. He was certainly overwhelmingly supported by the uniformed military. Trump felt that Esper had cut off one of his options to do some flamboyant deployment of troops, I guess, to generate support for himself, and he was very grumpy with Esper for doing this. But, Trump, I've struggled to see the good in Trump, and I think there are good elements to what he did as a president, but Trump gets bored with people very quickly. So I think he's had 5 separate bosses of the Defence Department, and he can't stand anyone who is not a complete yes man unless they're a member of his own family. So now he's sacked Esper. You hope it's just vindictiveness. The dangerous interpretation is that he plans to do something weird in defence in the next 2 months. I certainly don't think he's going to start a war or take military action or anything like that, because he's absolutely allergic to doing that. And it's one of his proudest boasts that he hasn't done that. But he might say precipitately withdraw all the troops from Afghanistan or something like that.
Yeah, indeed. That's a scenario which you could imagine, given his language on deployments to the Middle East, Greg. If you look at I'm interested in your overall assessment of where the numbers ended up in this presidential race. It looks like Biden ends up with 306 Electoral College votes, and you see the potent side of the Trump message and some of the success. You also see the flaws in his character, I guess, in the Arizona result, where the McCain impact was certainly seen. 10% of registered Republicans voting for Biden, and that surely had a lot to do with the row over the war hero John McCain.
Well, you're absolutely right, Kieran. I mean, the way Trump speaks about McCain is disgusting. It's a disgrace. I mean, you can dislike McCain's policies if you like or whatever, but the guy was a prisoner of war for 5 years who refused early release. They offered him early release because his father was the Pacific commander, and he said, "No, you've got to release pilots in the order in which you capture them." Now, you don't have to be very generous to honour that level of service. The paradox about Trump is, though, that because he is so obnoxious and so aggressive, he gains an enormous amount of attention, which a conventional Republican doesn't get. And the Republicans are at a massive funding disadvantage compared with the Democrats now. Poor people donate, paradoxically, to Trump. Rich people donate to Biden. So the question is, could a more civil version of Trump still have done the breakthrough with the voters that he got who don't normally vote, but nonetheless retained loyal Republicans in Arizona? Although Trump has lost this election fair and square, in fact, he's going to lose Arizona reasonably narrowly, Nevada reasonably narrowly, Georgia very narrowly, and Pennsylvania by, some tens of thousands of votes. So 4 years ago, he won by a fluke, as it were, 77,000 votes in an election of 130 million. He may well have lost the three critical states this time and therefore have lost the presidency by a similar margin, 70 or 80,000 votes out of 150 million. So there's an enormous amount of chance in this as well.
Greg Sheridan, thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kieran.